What is going on, YT? It is your boy Diego, but as always, you can call me Chancho. And this is the story of why I do not trust Mexican doctors anymore. It's a story that involves rusty medical tools, a doctor who was sweating from his pits, and of course, emergency exits that were blocked by boxes. This experience has traumatized me for life and I'm never going back. It's no secret that healthcare is a mess in the United States, and you go to the doctor, they give you Tylenol, and then you get a bill in the mail for like $15,000. So what do when you live so close to Mexico? You take a trip down south of the border, because there they're gonna fix you up for the cheaps. So that's exactly what we did, and it was a huge mistake. So the story kicks off. I'm working at a restaurant that shall remain nameless, aka Golden Corral, and I'm about my shift, and you know, the birds are chirping. It's supposed to be a good day. It was kind of slow, but then I started feeling those cold symptoms, early cold symptoms, and I'm like, okay, something's wrong here. I have a little bit of a sneeze, my cough, my ears start hurting too, and I'm just like, oh, and then I have that thing where my nose is clogged up so I can't breathe. And then my ears start popping and I really can't hear. So what do? I resort to Google, and Google tells me, you know what you should do? You should just cover up your nose and then blow out really hard so that way your ears can unclog. So I followed that method. Then after a while, I started feeling pain a lot in my ears, and I'm just like, okay, something's definitely wrong here. Then I started building up a fever. Guys, do not listen to Google for medical advice because that's what messed me up. So after that happened, I go to my boss and I'm like, hey man, like I need to go home because my ears are hurting really bad. Now, luckily he was having a good day or something, because usually they would just shut me down and force me to work for the rest of the day. But I guess he was in a good mood because he was like, hey, you know what, Diego, go ahead, go home. So I went home. And then the pain started getting worse. It started to feel like Edward Scissorhands was sticking his fingers into my ears and just digging them in there and scratching my brain at the same time. It was like, and it just started hurting so bad. And I was just like writhing in pain. I arrived home and my mom was like, what's wrong? But she didn't really care because she was talking to my uncle. And then I go to my room, I shut the door, and then I started developing probably one of the worst pains I've ever felt in my life. It's probably worse than like the time that I broke my foot playing soccer barefooted on the streets. So after that happened, I go to my mom and I'm like, Mom, something is definitely wrong. I need to go to the doctor. And I was at a chip, so I don't have healthcare in the great US of A at this point, so I have no options. I'm not going to go to the doctor and get charged like $800 for ear pain. And I'm a broke college student, thank you, Ashley. And so my only resort here is to go south of the border, cross the Rio Grande legally, across the bridge, not through the waters. And then I'm going to get my medical attention from a doctor. My mom goes, hey, lucky you should mention we should go to Mexico. Your dad has a friend in Mexico that's a doctor. And I'm like, wow, look at how that worked out. Perfect, let's go. So I call Ashley, who at this point we're engaged, and I tell her, Ashley, we're going to go to Mexico. And Ashley hasn't been in Mexico in years, so she's probably thinking it's going to be a fun trip. Little did she know it's not going to be a fun trip. The entire way there, you could ask Ashley, I'm just crying and acting like a baby. I'm just like... My dad was freaking out. He was like, we need to get this kid to the hospital right now. And then my mom takes her sweet time at the bank. She's like, I need to go to the bank. And I'm like, the bank, woman, my ears are bleeding. Then we find out that all the ATMs were broken except for one. So they were really taking their sweet tiempo on this. They were taking their sweet little time. I was in the car dying, passing out. My ears were exploding blood. It was a scene, guys. So finally, my mom decides that it was time to leave the bank. She takes me to my dad's friend, who's also a doctor. We arrive unannounced, no appointment. I don't know if this is how this man works regularly, but you should have seen what happened, man. This was a scene like out of a horror movie. So in Mexico, it's different than it is here, guys. They don't have these fancy medical practices, offices with like fish and like little playgrounds for the kids to play around. No. They just live in their doctor's office, basically. So his office is downstairs and he lives upstairs. And then he's not answering the door. So then finally he comes from upstairs. This man is he looked like he hadn't slept in 3 days. He opens the door. He's bald. Okay, that's besides the point, but he's bald. He has a regular plain white t-shirt with orange pit stains. I don't know why they were orange, what kind of deodorant he was using. And he's like, you know what? Let me take a look at him. And he puts on his little coat. It's like all rusty. I don't know how you get a rusty coat, but it's old and all battered and bruised. We walk inside his medical office. There's an emergency exit in the back, but it's just covered with boxes, which I was going to call OSHA, but then I realized we were in Mexico, so OSHA doesn't exist, and they don't care. There's 2 seats in the waiting room, 2 seats, and they were broken. and then there was dirt everywhere. It looked like he had just thrown dirt on the floor of his office. Why was there dirt in there? So I'm like, oh no, I got a bad feeling about this. So we go inside, and it's me, my mom, my brother, and Ashley, the 4 of us. So we go inside, and the doctor's like, well, what seems to be the problem? And I'm like, my ears hurt really bad. Please help me. And I was fearing it from the start because I know that in Mexico they always give you butt shots, and I had a little bit of hope that I wasn't gonna get a butt shot. But he takes a look in my ear, but it looked kind of old too, like it had been used during like the Cold War. And he's like looking through my ears, and he's like, "Oh yeah, these are very swollen. You have a really bad infection." And I was like, "A really bad infection? That's why you do not listen to Google for medical advice, guys. If your ears are ever clogged, do not cover your nose and blow out because you're probably gonna die." So he's like, "Well, I can give you two options, because in Mexico, what do they do when you get sick? They give you with military grade antibiotics, and they're gonna fix you up." I can't snap, but they're gonna fix you up like this because those are not regulated by the FDA. The pill's like this big, they just shove it down your throat, but you get fixed in like 20 minutes. Well, anyways, he's like, "Look, I can either give you an oral treatment, or I can give you a butt shot right now and you'll feel better in like 10 minutes. And I was like, at this point, like I said, Edward Scissorhands is like knee deep into my ears with his fingers. I'm bleeding. It hurts really bad. I'm looking for a quick fix. I'm like, "You know what, doctor?" I drop my pants and I'm like, "You give me that butt shot, and you give me that butt shot right now." But he takes me to the back room. Now, granted, the back room in this guy's office is just split by like a curtain. Guys, you should have seen it. It was like a scene from Dexter. Like, you pull the curtain and there are all his tools on like one of those little medical carts. And guys, I wanted to call the cops. The tools were rusty. The tools were like red rusty. And I was like, I sure hope that whenever this man does his medical procedures or whatever he does back here, his murder, like, I hope he doesn't use the same tools for everything. Now I started to get really worried because I know this man was going to put me an injection, right? And I'm like, I really hope he doesn't use an old needle from like another patient who had like, I don't know, some sort of STD or something. I don't know. Oh, and then he had one of those really huge box fans, like the ones they used to use in gym when you were in elementary. And it was just blowing. That can't be good. Like I said, there was already dirt on the floor. It's just blowing the dirt, like recycling dirt all over the room. And it was super, super hot in there. Guys, this place needed to have been shut down maybe 35 years ago. And on the wall, he had his little degree from, I'm not going to name the university because I don't want to rat them out. And then after that, he's just like, "Okay, drop your pants." And I'm like, oh no, here we go. To my relief, guys, he did pull out the syringe from a new packet. So it was a new syringe. Whew. And I pulled down my pants. He gives me the shot on the butt. And it hurt really bad, guys. I'm not gonna lie to you. As that needle was being shoved into my cheek, it was some really potent medicine. Like I said, guys, here they give you the military, in Mexico, they give you the military grade stuff. Like whatever, like a soldier that just got his leg chopped off, that's the same dosage that I was getting. So after I got my medicine, I go back to his office where all the dirt and rats were. And then my mom's like, "Well, is that it?" And he's like, "Yeah, he'll feel better in like 20 minutes. So then he's like, "Well, I have a pharmacy next door," which by the way was his pharmacy too. So I mean, I don't know how clean my medicine was, but he ended up giving me a prescription to use later. But within maybe 20-25 minutes, I was feeling fine again. Now here's where it gets even grosser. Ashley's there. This is her first time back in Mexico. She was probably hoping for a beautiful day full of like Mexican candies, tacos, all that other good stuff. But what did she end up getting instead of Mexican candies and tacos? She ended up getting an infection too, because the doctor decided, who, by the way, he knew he was sick and he didn't even wear a mask, and he was coughing all over the office. Now, picture this, guys. Ashley's standing right here, minding her own business. The doctor's a little bit more this way, and she's talking to my mom, who's like standing in front of him like this. Now, so Ashley would be behind him over here, right? So he's talking blah, 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 tacos, burritos, whatever. And then he just goes right into Ashley's face. He actively turned around to cough in Ashley's face. Why did he do that? I don't know. He could have turned this way to cough. He could have covered. He's a doctor. He's a doctor. He knows you can spread disease. He could have done this. He could have done the vampire cough. Anything else would have been good other than coughing right in Ashley's face. Ashley gets grossed out. I was pretty sure she was just gonna vomit all over the floor there and mix it with the dirt that was on the floor. But she ended up not vomiting, to my surprise. We get to the car and she was like, "Can you believe he coughed in my face?" And I was like, dude, I don't know what kind of doctor this was. Dirty office, pit stains, rusty tools, box fan, dirt all over the floor, rats in the corner, blocked emergency exit by boxes, and now he's coughing in people's faces while he's all sweaty, and it's hot in his office. Guys, I thought about calling the police because this is a crime for sure. This has got to be some sort of medical malpractice. We went to go get pollo asado, or grilled chicken, I guess. Mexican grilled chicken. It was delicious. You know, medical stuff, maybe it's not the best, but hey, that food, woo, it hits different. And then we got Mexican candies from the dulceria. It was just a good time after that. But during that medical experience that I went through, that is the last time I will ever go to a Mexican doctor, because there's no reason that a professional doctor should have rusty tools, dirt all over his floor, and rats. I mean, what is this? Ashley, after that day, she got back to, you know, the great US of A where we pay $45,000 for medical bills, but she ended up getting sick from that for the next like 2 weeks. She ended up getting something bad from him. I don't know what he was doing practicing medicine in that state, not wearing a mask, but he was definitely unfit for active duty. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening to my story. If you made it all the way to the end, consider liking, subscribing for more content. We have a lot of stuff on the channel that you guys can check out. We have a little bit of everything for everyone. We have gaming, we have true crime, funny stories, skits, sketches, and we have a good Halloween special that was supposed to be released on Halloween, but we've been pretty busy, so you guys can catch that one later, but it takes some time to edit. But thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I really appreciate all the love and support. Catch you guys in the next video. Hasta la vista, baby.